So today is Monday, February 27th, 2017, and we're talking about lesson 4.13 today. So module 4, lesson 13. We did up to module 4, lesson 12 for our mid-module exam right before the break, and today we're going to continue right along with lesson 13. And our learning goal is to be able to multiply unit fractions by unit fractions using a rectangular fraction model. Before we used tape diagrams, remember that? Yeah? Rectangular fraction models are a different kind of drawing. Okay, it's just basically a rectangle that shows fractions. That's why it's called a rectangular fraction model. It's not the same thing as a tape diagram. Okay? Very good. Learning goal. It says, in our learning goal, it says we need to multiply unit fractions by unit fractions. So in order to master that, first of all, we need to figure out and remind ourselves, what is a unit fraction? Alina?
It's a fraction.
So as Alina said, a unit fraction is any fraction where the numerator is 1. Now, is the numerator the number on the top or the bottom? Top. So is 1/2 a unit fraction?
Yes.
Is 1/7 a unit fraction?
Yes.
Is 1/100th a unit fraction?
Yes.
Is 3/4 a unit fraction? No, because the numerator is not 1. Okay, so we're talking about if we're going to multiply unit fractions by unit fractions, we're looking at multiplying fractions where the numerator is 1. If Jan has 4 pans of brownies and she sends half of those pans to school with her kids, how many pans of brownies does she send to school? Well, in my picture here, I have 4 different pans of brownies, and if I want to split them into 2 equal groups, I can go like that, right? And if she sends half, 1 out of the 2 groups, how many pans does she send to school? 2 pans. So what we did here was we did 1/2 of how many pans? 4. And we know that's equal to 1/2 times 4, right? Because of is the same as multiplication, which is equal to 4 over 2, right? Which is equal to 2 pans. Very good. Okay, so you might want to write down, can you guys write down just the math, right? 1/2 of 4 equals 1/2 times 4 equals 4 over 2 equals 2. Now Jan only has 2 pans of brownies, but she's still going to send half of her pans to school with her kids. So you can draw 2 pans right there to represent 2. And how can I split that into 2 equal groups? Well, I'll just draw a line down the middle. Now do I have 2 equal groups? This time I'm doing 1/2 of how many pans? 2. So it's 1/2 of 2. So how can I write that as a math expression? Everyone? 1/2 times 2. How can I write that as a fraction? 2 over 2, which equals 1 pan. So half of 2 is how many pans? 1 pan. Good. Take a moment to write that down. Jan now has only 1 pan of brownies, so I just drew 1 pan. She sends half of those pans to school with her kids. How many pans of brownies does she send? Well, this time if I only have 1, how can I draw a line to divide that into 2 equal groups? I can just draw a line down the middle. And she sends this part to school. So this time I'm finding 1/2 of how many? 1/2 of 1, which equals 1/2 times 1, which equals half a pan. So in this case, she would only send half a pan to school. Now, Jan only has half a pan of brownies. So what I drew was I drew a full pan, and then in black, I drew the 1/2, and I labeled it. Be very careful. I want you to note that right here, I labeled that from here to here is 1/2. Now, she sends half of that pan to school with her kids. So I had to divide that whole thing into half. So I wrote right here that this is half. This time I'm finding half of 1/2, which is the same as 1/2 times 1/2. So how much is shaded in with just blue and black? 1 out of how many different sections? 1, 2, 3, 4. So 1/2 of 1/2 is how much? 1/4 of the pan. Okay. Jan has 1/3 of a pan of Rice Krispie treats. She sends 1/2 of those treats to school with her children. What fraction of the pan does she send to school? Well, in this case, here is her whole pan, but does she have this entire pan? She only has how much of it baked? 1/3. So let's split it into thirds. Okay, and let's shade in 1/3 of it. And let's label it 1/3. She sends 1/2, as the problem says, of those thirds. So let's split that 1/3 into half. And let's label that 1/2. And she sends, and then go ahead and shade in the part that she sends. Okay, so in this case, she's sending 1/2 of how much of the pan? 1/3. So make sure you write that on the side. 1/2 of 1/3. Now, how can we write that as a math expression? 1/2 times 1/3, because we know that the word of just means multiplication. Now, let's take a look. How much is shaded in both black and blue? One section out of a total of how many sections? 6. So 1/2 of 1/3 is 1/6. Now, are we done? Is that our final answer? We need to add a label. So it's 1/6 what? Of the pan. Okay, so make sure you actually answer the question. If you don't, it says what fraction of the pan. If you don't write of the pan, you're not answering the question. Okay, in this case, the question's asking us to find what fraction of all of the vehicles are white pickup trucks. And the important information is we know that 1/3 of them are pickup trucks and 1/3 of the trucks are white. So if I draw a fraction model, I can draw an entire thing. I can label this 1. This represents all the cars that are in the sales lot. But are all of those cars pickup trucks?
No.
What fraction? 1/3. So I'm going to divide that whole into thirds. I'm going to shade in one of those thirds, and I'm going to label it 1/3. Now, are all of those pickup trucks white?
No.
How many of them are white? What fraction of those pickup trucks are white, according to the problem? 1/3. So that means I have to divide that black section into how many sections? 3. So when I divide, I don't just divide, be careful, I don't just do that. I have to divide them all the way across. Okay? Be careful. Now, how many of those sections should I color in? 1. And I need to do what? Label it as 1/3. How many sections are colored in with 2 colors? 1. And out of a total of how many sections now? 9. So I think my answer is going to be 1/9. Let's see. I'm finding 1/3 of what? 1/3. That's the same as 1/3 times 1/3, which is going to equal 1/9. And what should my label be in order to fully answer this question? 1/3. Sporty? What, is it 1/9 of all the pickup trucks are white? Right here it says 1/3 of the trucks are white. We have to be careful. How can we answer the question? It's not 1/9 of the trucks. It's going to be 1/9. Lakshan?
1/9 of all of the vehicles.
You got it. 1/9 of the vehicles. Because are there some vehicles that aren't pickup trucks?
Yes.
Right? So Sporty, do you see the difference? Because it already told us that 1/3 of the trucks are white. So can I say 1/9 of the trucks? Could that possibly be right? No, it's going to be 1/9 of all of the vehicles.